What did you think of that Brazil versus Morocco match? And be honest here. And I will be honest about all of the matches as well, of course. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it feels like a little bit of a slow start to this tournament. But welcome to day 3 of the World Cup Daily Recap. I'm Adrian, I've got games 1, 2, and 3, and for the late one, our pal Dan will cover it. Before we go, live stream today for Netherlands versus Japan, so be sure to join us for that. We'll go live 15 minutes before that match kicks off, so 3:45 p.m. Eastern. Just subscribe and turn on bell notifications and it will tell you when we are live. Cool? Let's go. All right, some Group B action before we devoted ourselves to Groups C and D. Qatar taking on Switzerland in Santa Clara, California, Levi Stadium, aka San Francisco area, Bay Area Stadium or something. That's where I saw Benfica play a friendly, actually. Big stadium, absolutely zero shade to be found in there. You roast like I did. Plenty of Qatar support there, though. Anyway, there was indeed a chance early for Qatar, a very good one, but after that, it was pretty much all Switzerland who found their breakthrough via the penalty spot after Remo Freuler was taken out by the Qatar keeper. Breel Embolo scored twice in the 2022 World Cup, opening his account early in this one. By the way, shocking stat of the day, the first penalty that Switzerland have ever scored in a World Cup, which is pretty wild. Embolo, that's 4 consecutive major tournaments in a row now that he has scored in. A lot of talk about whether Freuler was offside when he won the penalty, but images released later showed that he was indeed onside. Super weird though, they released the images like hours later. Once Switzerland got up and running, they were working their way through that Qatar defense relatively regularly, testing Abunad in goal, one of his best saves coming from Embolo and Vargas combining, Vargas going low at the near post and Abunad just getting a toe to it to steer it around the post, or a cutback seeing Abisher's strike get cleared off the line by a defender. Switzerland were swarming, they just couldn't convert. But you still had Qatar getting forward every now and then. The Swiss defense wasn't anywhere close to airtight, but they really lacked in quality in the final third without Almoez Ali out there, as he has had a disturbed 2026, as in his playing time has been disturbed by injury. And it seemed like Switzerland would find a second, but they lost some composure in the final third in that second half. 5 big chances overall, missed. At other times, they looked like there was no real urgency. They thought the match was won, and at others, Abunad had the answer. Stunning performance from him, keeping Qatar in this match, giving them hope that they could find something. And they did exactly that in the dying embers of this game. Alamin crossed to the back post and Houthi threw himself at the ball, powering a header past Gregor Kobel to make it 1-1 and rescue a point for Qatar, their first ever point in the World Cup. And just look at what that does to Group B. Every single team on a single point. Qatar was seen as the team that everyone would get a win off of, just like in the last World Cup. But now look at them. You cannot underestimate anybody in this. Well. As I said a few times on the watch-along stream, this was the match that I was well and truly looking forward to in this tournament. This was the one I had circled as the big one early. That's always a dangerous thing to do. You know, get excited for things. But I was excited to see this Brazilian side and how they would perform at this World Cup under Ancelotti, and I was excited to see if Morocco would also be as good as we all thought that they would be. In the first 30 minutes, they absolutely were, and a big part of that was how they dominated the midfield, man. Bouhaddi, El Mourabet, and El Ainaoui were running circles around Casemiro and Bruno Guimaraes. They looked absolutely absent out there, the Brazilians. And this Moroccan midfield had an average age of 20.6 years old. That's it. Incredibly young and incredibly dominant for long stretches in that first half. Brazil found it difficult to get out of their own end at times as Morocco dominated the ball and eventually got a deserved opening goal, and the ease in which they got it was pretty wild. Both Marquinhos and Gabriel not picking up on a massive Moroccan running right in between them, so a nice through ball from Brahim Diaz and Saibari was through. Still a lot to do with Alisson rushing out at him, but he hit a deft chip over Alisson that bounced into the goal. Great finish, so much finesse to pull that off without having a first touch on the ball. He hit it with his first touch. It shouldn't be that easy though, right? It really shouldn't be, but a pacey player can get separation from Gabriel and Marquinhos at the back. Something to watch out for, which I think most of us would have expected. After that, Brazil didn't fully wake up, but Vini Jr. did, as he looked smooth on the ball. He was dangerous in one-on-one situations. He was the only one whose crosses were making it into, and unfortunately for him, through the box, and it was him who would bring Brazil level by cutting inside and smashing the ball past Bono for 1-1. Excellent goal from Vinicius Jr. Now, after that, Brazil didn't see Morocco looking as dangerous, and in fact, in the second half, they kind of canceled each other out to the point where I'll be honest, I was begging for the match to end. Morocco did force a save out of Alisson in stoppage time, but judging from the replay, it was actually heading on the wrong side of the post, so it was going wide, but man, didn't expect that second half to be so downbeat. There was a point where the ball got hit to Alisson. Alisson kicked it all the way to Bono. Bono kicked it all the way back to Brazil's back line. It got stuck in the midfield. It was just like, what are we doing here? I was saying that Brazil was a team that we are all perhaps overlooking as far as contenders go, but man, they lack a creative central midfielder. Paquetá did not get it done out there. Their midfield was bypassed by Morocco to a worrying degree early in this match. Igor Thiago looked out of sync with the rest of the attack and really should have buried that header from the first half, but there's still obviously talent. Morocco, really fun to watch. Their talent is unbelievable, filled with ballers, and I mean, no surprise there as they won the U20 World Cup recently with the man who is currently coaching the senior side, this team, Wabi. And in talking about how young their midfield was, you can see some of those players are coming through now, right? Morocco could well win this group. Brazil has some figuring out to do, but at the same time, it's just the first match. They avoided a loss and they can get better from here. Really interested to see if Endrick will ever get a minute out of Ancelotti. Surprised he didn't come on in this one, considering the season he had with Lyon. But I did think Brazil looked a little better with Matheus Cunha out there. I know, I said this about Brazil versus Morocco, but I was also really looking forward to seeing how Haiti would do against Scotland for two reasons. One, CONCACAF solidarity, of course, and two, after making that video on them and their history and how it mixes with their football history, I mean, how could you not root for Haiti after watching that video, right? That said, happy for Scotland as well. Shout out all the Scottish subscribers out there. Always love interacting with you guys. A few of which were asking me what to expect of Haiti, to which I said, do not count them out before the match even begins, because they have a fast, talented team. And I think they showed that, didn't they? They showed up well in Boston. Well, kind of, Foxborough. They did not make this easy for Scotland. Yes, they lacked a bit in the final third, but they have the ability to ball out. Bellegarde certainly has my heart. I thought that he played very well in the first half, not as well in the second, but still good. Haiti were arguably the better side prior to the first half water break, a water break that was welcomed by the Scottish, I think, because they scored shortly after. Ben Ganondok, who was fantastic, by the way, what a player. His ball ended up forcing a save out of Placide eventually, but it only went as far as McGinn at the edge of the box, and his strike took a big deflection to go past Placide. Otherwise, it looked like it was getting saved. McGinn getting Scotland's first World Cup goal in 28 years, a lifetime for some, for many of you, according to my YouTube demographics. Now, shortly after, Piero almost scored for Haiti, had his attempt not been blocked, and the rest of the game saw momentum sort of swing back and forth between the teams. Piero would come close again in the second half, around the 85th minute, during a spell where Haiti were looking very dangerous and Scotland were having difficulty getting a foothold in this match. Piero with that header that just went wide of the post. But Scotland won in the end, their first World Cup win since 1990. Great fight from Haiti, again lacking the quality in the final third and maybe a little luck, but a great start to the group stage for Scotland. I liked this match. It was a breath of fresh air after that Brazil-Morocco second half, and so for now, Scotland top this group. Scotland at the top of Group C. Okay guys, this match was the late one. Dan, what happened here?
Yeah, that's right, Adrian. The fourth and final match of the day on Saturday, or I guess depending on which time zone you're in, the first match on Sunday. But in Vancouver at BC Place where this was played, it was the final match on Saturday. Let's get into it. Australia and Turkey concluding the first round of matches for Group D after the US beat Paraguay yesterday. And while tactically this game played out as you would have expected, the result was far from the one we expected. There wasn't a whole lot going on until the first hydration break, which I know we are all loving during this summer's World Cup. Australia playing in a 5-4-1, very content to stay in their defensive posture and just soak up as much pressure as Turkey was willing to give them. That pressure resulted in a Arda Güler chance. He takes it on the half volley just outside the area, but it's right at Australian keeper Patrick Beach, who would end up being man of the match in this one. And why that chance is important is because of what happens right after it. Beach throws it out to one of his defenders. 2 passes later, the ball's coming over the top. Iran Koundé takes a beautiful first touch, cuts it to his right, and then hits it back the other way to the short post, and it's 1-0 Socceroos, just like that. 17 seconds after the Arda Güler chance. Turkey was having a really tough time from there. Australia remained very unapologetic in their defensive posture, and why not? It was absolutely working. Turkey was getting frustrated with the lack of space available to them in the offensive third. They continued to just hammer shots from all over the field, 25, 30 yards out, nothing that really worried Australia. It remained 1-0 into the second half and deep into the second half. Kenan Yildiz came on at the halftime break, but nothing really worked for Turkey. They really struggled to find space. They struggled to open up Australia. That yellow wall stood tall, block after block, clearance after clearance. By the end of this match, I was calling them the Defenderoos. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm allowed at least one bad joke. I hope Adrian doesn't hate me for it. Turkey lacked a real presence up front, and they just couldn't seem to get enough players forward. And when they did try, that's when Australia did the inevitable and took the ball back the other way. Another transition chance and another goal, this time from Metcalf. He took it on the right, cut it to his left, and hit a perfect low shot curling away from the Turkish keeper and into the bottom corner. It capped off what was a perfect performance from the Aussies. They knew what they needed to do in this match. They defended well, they played to their strengths, and they took their few chances perfectly when they had them fall to them. It capped off a perfect Australian performance. They didn't create much, they didn't try to create much, but the chances they did create, they took really, really well. And that was the major difference in this match. It was the perfect underdog game plan, and it turns out to be a 2-0 win for Australia. So it was a major upset to close out the day. Australia, a team nobody expected much out of, taking out Turkey, a team that was looked at as one that could be a surprise in this tournament. They'll have to regroup and try to win over Paraguay, who's also licking their wounds after a tough loss to the US, while Australia has a date with the Americans next in Group D. Back to you, Adrian.
Okay. That'll do it, everyone. Once again, I thank you for joining me. Head over to the 90th Minute to get your daily preview for the day. Subscribe here if you're new, and we'll see you in the next video. Later, guys.